Alrighty. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Coffee Talk, the show where we talk about all sorts of things in a coffee shop style of mood, and we let the conversation go wherever it wants to, and we get cozy. So, today, I am joined by two brand new guests once again, who it's also their debut on Cerulean Sky. Why don't we go ahead and introduce ourselves? Let's start with Mikhail and then Mami. In that order, please.
All right, hi, thanks. My name's Mikhail, screen name Alchemical, kind of a play on the word alchemical. Yeah, I'm newer to the community. Obviously, this is my first time, participating in anything and anything with voice as well. Um, Not sure what else to say at the moment yet, but
All good. What about you, Mami?
I'm Mami, longer version, Mami. It's fully Cooley reference, character named Mami. This is also my first time on here, and I hope to do more stuff with Cerulean Skies later on. I'm also really new to the community, but I'm hoping that I kind of just blend in.
I think you both have done a great job being a part of the community and stuff like that, and we're really happy to have you here at Cerulean Skies. So I look forward to many great things to come from both of you in the future. Hopefully, posting some of your own stuff too. Wink, wink.
Hoping that I get Fatal Frame soon, and I might stream some of that on here maybe.
Nice.
yeah, that's a good choice.
Alrighty, so with the first question of the night, that is a staple here on the show. It is, what is your favorite drink? Doesn't have to be caffeinated. It can be any sort of drink that you have, but what is your favorite drink? Mommy, let's start with you, and we'll go to Mikhail.
Uh, oh man, if I'm going with juice, it definitely have to be cran apple. There's just something about it. Not quite regular cranberry juice, but it's not quite apple juice either. If I'm going with soda, it'd probably have to be. So at most places, there's this like make it your like mix and match. If you go to a gas station, it's like the Coca-Cola machines are mix and match.
Yep.
I like just making weird concoctions. So a lot of them involve like Sprite and High C. That's definitely like a second choice.
Nice, nice. What about you, Mikhail? Mikhail, I'm sorry, I keep messing it up.
No worries. I mean, I hear variations on it like constantly. So, let's see. Definitely have like a couple different things. Again, like as far as juice, this brand called Bolt House. They've got like kind of these different, fruit juices or whatever, and there's this one that's got this. It's got kind of a cherry sort of flavor to it. That's really good, and it's good for kind of mixing with other different juices too.
Nice.
Another big thing I'm into, like that matcha flavor and that sort of thing. So there's a few different milk tea places and that'll have that kind of add on to them.
Is that brand local, or is it something that you could find in stores if you looked hard enough?
I'm pretty sure I've seen it elsewhere in the US at least.
Nice.
I think they're a bigger company based out of, maybe it might be the West Coast and I'm in the East Coast, so.
Oh, okay, I gotcha. Also, Mommy, you and Rachel get along very well because she also, and I think you were there last week too, she also said any cran style juice and like cran apple and stuff like that.
Yeah, man, brand style juice is just really good. It's good for a lot of things, honestly. I mean, for one, it's good to just drink on its own, put some ice in it maybe, and it really clears your system. But a lot of cranberry juices are just good to mix with light alcohol, well, light liquor, as opposed to dark liquor. So like vodkas and gins and stuff like that. That's something completely different.
Yeah, I do like any of the cranberry like mixed ones, like cran apple, cran grape, any of that.
I still gotta try cran grape because I had never heard of that until you guys all brought it up last week. Like I had heard of cran apple and like some of the other ones, but like cran grape to me just seems so interesting.
It definitely is.
Alrighty, so here's the first big question of the night. And this one was honestly really hard to word, so bear with me a little bit as I try to figure it out still. But essentially, the question is can you describe a moment and or like the time where when weather does something that almost makes you feel like almost like an out of body experience, or like something that makes like when weather does something and you feel different in either a good or a bad way or something like that. I'll start with this one, and then we'll go to Mikhail, and then we'll go to Mami for this one, just so you guys get a bit of time to think, but also hopefully my answer can help you like understand the question I'm asking. It's a bit difficult to word, but I think my explanation will help. So the way I had thought about this question is that last week on the East Coast, at least, in the Pennsylvania area and stuff like that, we got hit with the residual effect of Hurricane Ian. So from like a Thursday to like Wednesday, it had rained nonstop straight for like 5 days, like day and night. No thunderstorms or anything like that, no like massive winds or anything, just a straight steady stream of rain for like 5 days straight, day and night. And to me, like there's two parts of it. Like when rain goes on and on for a few days, that definitely can affect people's mood, right? Because there's no sunlight, there's, you know, serotonin, all that stuff, you lose all that. People get a bit gloomy and a bit depressing and stuff like that, which definitely does happen to myself as well. But at the same time, there's something about that vibe that also somehow makes me like the most productive and stuff like that. But it also makes me like the most self-aware and like just like self-conscious of everything that's like going around me and stuff like that. And it's weirdly like one of my favorite times whenever weather does that and stuff like that, because like it harkens back to a time like when I was in high school. I would go help out my dad with his business that he inherited from my uncle, who originally had it in downtown Chicago, running it out of his apartment. Whether or not that was actually allowed is still a story to this day that we don't know if it's true, you know, if it's allowed or not. But, you know, Chicago, we'll let the bills slide under the table and stuff like that. But during the winter time, because that's like peak tax season with the business and stuff like that, what would happen is he would at the time drag me. But in hindsight, he would, you know, now that I'm a mature adult, he would take me on weekends because we would stay over in Chicago because we would have so many clients. There's just no way of going back and forth between downtown Chicago and the suburbs. And at the time, similar weather had happened when I was like basically finishing high school, like about to enter college and stuff like that. So a very vulnerable time for me in like, okay, like I don't know what I'm doing in my career yet. I'm entering university out of state, you know, going to live alone for the first time and stuff like that. So a very unique position. But a lot of the times we went over the weekends during the winter was an overcast, and at the time snowy, but still very gloomy, very overcast and stuff like that. So it's one of those things that like whenever those types of weather patterns happen, I get like really happy because it's happening, because I just feel like really good. I kind of think about the past, I think about kind of like the future and stuff like that, and just like, you know, being really self-aware and everything. But of course I also get really gloomy because 5 days straight of overcast and rain is not really good for our mental health and stuff like that. So for me, long periods of overcast and rain is like my like special / favorite part of weather, if that makes sense. So, yeah. What you got for us, Mikhail?
Oh, sorry about that. I had a couple sneezes there.
Bless you.
Well, I mean, in a way, kind of what came to mind. So for me, like, I'm already nearing 40, so I'm a little older here, I think, in as far as the community. But I've got a lot of different, I'd say, like moments where like the weather kind of hits just that spot that will remind me of different times. One that pretty often comes to mind is even just, kind of that calm, normal day, and you get just the right temperature and you get the wind and that kind of thing. But even, the time of day helps with that as far as, say, clear skies and being able to, see the stars, that sort of thing. I was very into astrology. Is that the right one? No, astronomy.
Astronomy.
Astronomy, yeah. When I was younger. So, being able to kind of remember that very vividly, just,
Makes you feel really good.
yeah, it does.
Yeah, for sure. Do you have a telescope that you own that when summer nights come, you go out and check out the stars and everything?
I don't currently, I don't think so. But I mean, there's plenty of things in the basement where, there might still be an old one. I'm just not entirely sure.
Heck yeah. Feel that. Anything else you want to add to that, or you good?
I'm good, yeah.
Hey, what you got for us, Mommy?
Okay, I guess it's my turn. If I had to pick a specific weather event or something like that, I guess I'd choose those slight couple of minutes before it starts to rain. Um, you know, especially I grew up in a desert, so when it was about to rain, you always knew because the clouds were gray and you start to get that whiff of damp dirt, damp sand in your nose, and it's still a very comforting smell to this day. But most of the time you'd be playing outside, and then you'd see the clouds roll in, and you'd start to smell the air, and it smelled like rain, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And you knew it was time to go inside. But it also was kind of comforting in a sense, but it was also a little scary because you never knew how hard the rain was gonna be. Uh, I think even to this day, it's kind of comforting, especially now. I'm in my early 20s, and sometimes you're just standing outside and you whiff it, and it kind of just takes me back to being a little bit younger. And I think early 20s is a weird stage in life because you're not quite sure what to do with yourself yet. Some people find a career. I'm lucky enough that I've already started a career, and other people still just don't even know what they want to do with their lives, and everything just starts moving at hyper speeds, and it doesn't feel like it slows down ever.
Yep, I definitely feel that for sure. It is a crazy time, indeed.
So yeah, definitely those couple minutes where you smell the air and it smells like rain.
Nice.
That's definitely a pretty good moment.
No, I know, and I made a comment. It might have been on another stream with Golden and Yahiko, um, where, even at my age, I'm not necessarily in a career still and still kind of just doing what I can to get by, but also focusing a lot on the things that I do enjoy.
I think I don't want to ask like the
go ahead.
very naive slash obvious question of like, would you still like to start a career and would you wish you were in one? But I do still want to ask it outside of the context of necessity.
I mean, I certainly would prefer like stability at least.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, you get into that stability and you can just find yourself unhappy.
Yeah.
That's definitely for sure. I think stability is kind of a tricky thing For one, you're grateful that you're stable and you don't have to worry about much, but at the same time, life just seems to drone on and it's a day in, day out, same repeating task type thing. And I think a lot of people, if they can't find a way to balance it out, can get into a really big slump that starts to just affect everything in general.
And it gets tricky too because like there's only so many hobbies you can do and so much time you can put into those hobbies before even those start to feel like tasks and chores almost. Like still do what you like and what you enjoy and stuff like that. That's kind of why we're all here, of course. But like yeah, like even then it's like how do you break out of your mental monotony and stuff like that, you know?
Yeah.
See that Sphere? He put something in chat. He said walking around recently at like 2 p.m. with the windy autumn weather and like all the falling leaves really zones me out. It's really relaxing. I think that's also a pretty good time of the year and just weather in general. It's a little chilly. You might have on a windbreaker or something like that. You might take a walk, or you might just be going on with everyday life and seeing stuff happen around. But I think the color or the changing color of leaves and just seeing them on the ground is definitely something relaxing, especially if you grew up around trees and you had those moments where you just played in them,
Yeah.
whether it be at the park where they were raked up and you jump in them, or you had leaves in your front yard and you were forced to rake them up, but you just you just jump into them yourself.
Honestly, yeah. All right. Since we're on the topic, what is everyone's favorite season? Mine is fall. For the exact reasons why Shu said, because it's just so ethereal.
I think I'd also have to go with fall. I don't think I'd go with that in general. I think it's just because it's that point in the year where it's not too cold and it's not too hot.
Mm-hmm.
Especially being in a southern state. Uh, Sometimes it can feel like it's just summer all year round, except for those like small little weeks of cold air. But fall's definitely a good point. You're not wrapped up in giant jackets, but you're not just straight stripping off your clothes trying to relieve the heat.
Yeah, I would say fall might be my favorite. There's something about every season I can kind of appreciate, but overall, I think fall, for kind of the same reasons. It's also that it almost feels overall like a more laid back season compared to the other ones. Even whether, growing up or even, after being out of school, there's always so much more happening. Or, with winter, it's just, here it's going to be possibly cold and miserable and that sort of thing. So,
I think fall is really the season for social events. I think there's, for whatever reason, just so many small holidays that you can plan get-togethers for in fall. I mean, Halloween is one coming up. I know some people will go out trick-or-treating, but other people will have Halloween parties, which I plan on attending one. And then you have Thanksgiving. I said so many, but in reality, there's really only like two, for being honest. But I feel like Thanksgiving can get split up into so many things because I know some people kind of do Friendsgiving if they're away from family, or just go out and do whatever.
well, and these holidays sort of take up that whole time as well. They're not, things like, say, 4th of July if you're in the US, where, okay, it's a day, it's a weekend. Halloween ends up being basically this whole month to a lot of people. And even Thanksgiving, there's a lot more that they'll do during the month.
And then Christmas ends up being like 3 months because I started doing Christmas music as soon as Halloween ends.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
She brings up a good
Tell me
point where it
about-
does depend on your group. Yeah, like some people will do a lot of things during winter and stuff like that. It brings up a interesting thought of just like it makes you wonder sometimes where, or not sometimes, it just thought just occurred to me now, but it does bring up an interesting thought of just like, I've naturally, I'm sure we can all have attest to this too. I feel like introverts will more likely prefer the latter half of the year with fall and winter because it's more of like an indoor-ish like season. Yeah, there's still stuff to do outside, but it's more of an indoor season than it is outdoor. Versus spring and summer are definitely more outdoor seasons, so you hear more like extroverted people say um, that they might like spring or summer a little bit more and stuff like that. I don't know what your guys' thoughts on that are.
That's a I think that's pretty accurate. I feel like in spring and summer, people are looking for things to do outside, obviously, because the weather's a little bit nicer. Maybe it's just so hot. You know, you might go to a water park, or if it's near you, a beach, or, you know, if you're somewhere where there's a lake, you might go to a lake and just have those type of activities. Or maybe if you're a little bit younger, you might have water gun fights or run through sprinklers, slip and slides, stuff like that. As opposed to in fall, you might, like Spear said, that they watch movies and stuff like that. You might just huddle inside and watch a good movie, or in winter you might make some hot cocoa and watch a movie with your family. I know a lot of people watch Christmas programs with their families. Personally, I used to like watching the Charlie Brown specials from
Classic.
like October all the way to like January, or Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and Frosty the Snowman, all those types of things.
Those are classic films for sure. I can't wait to watch them again this year.
Yeah. Kind of the same. I mean, for me, if I think as far as like, say, you know, video games, and the season that comes to mind is going to be kind of that late fall, early winter, maybe when, okay, these days where it started snowing outside and I got to stay home or that sort of thing.
Man, wouldn't it be nice if we get a white Christmas this year? After how many years? I don't know. I know probably for you, Mami, it's like not a thing because you're in a southern state, but at least for us on the East Coast, it'd be nice to get some snow on Christmas this year.
I think the funny thing is, so I wouldn't necessarily, so we never really had a white Christmas, but it is quite funny because I remember my sophomore year. I grew up when I was growing up in like middle school and elementary school. I grew up in a town called Farmington, New Mexico, kind of like a Midwestern state, but it was also desert. But it would snow a lot because it was in the mountains. It was closer to the mountains. Now that we live here in the south a little more, it doesn't really snow as much. But I remember the one year that it did snow, everybody was going crazy because it's not something you see a lot. I know there were kids that were skipping class to go and build snowmen on the football field and stuff like that. But it's because they've probably only ever seen snow once in their life. Definitely, it was just weird, you know, seeing snow majority of your life. It's nothing special, but for others it might be a pretty big treat, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, growing up in the Midwest, it's just like every year you had like 2 feet of snow or something like that. So it became very normal and just kind of a thing you just expect. And then when you move to a place that doesn't have as much snow, you begin to wonder like, oh yeah, you know, it'd be nice if you get some again.
Definitely something you don't realize you'd miss.
Yep.
Right, for sure.
That brings up a story that I remember when we were driving down to Florida one time, and it snowed a little bit in Georgia, like a 1 1/2 of an inch. But it was breaking news because we saw it on the hotel TV the next morning. And my dad was like, "Oh, we might have to turn back because like they're saying that there was a snowstorm." And like it was like 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, "Wait, did you say snowstorm?" He's like, "Yeah, like they're saying the traffic's really bad." And I'm like, "Dad, we're in Georgia. There's no way an actual snowstorm came through, right? And we looked at the actual like measurements of like what they were talking about. It was like 1.5 inches and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, let's leave like in a couple of hours, right? Maybe the snow will be melted by then. Maybe they'll have figured out the traffic by then. You know, like, we're Midwesterners. We know what real snow is. This is probably going to be nothing. We get out on the road a couple of hours a little bit later than we had intended to, and all the roads are just perfectly clear. It's as if it never snowed. It more looked like it rained because there were small puddles of water all over the place, but we still somehow got stuck in traffic. And it was like bad traffic, like barely scooching along. And we were probably gonna be stuck on this road for like an extra like 2.5, 3 hours, and it was getting to a point where we wanted to get lunch, and it was like, oh god, like what are we gonna do? We finally get to a point where we can exit off of the highway, and I was like trying to see ahead, like what was causing this backup, and I still don't know to this day if it was on purpose or somehow an accident. But here's what I saw: there was a point at which there was just a bunch of cars stopped and people just walking around and just like basically chilling. And in front of them was a truck, a semi truck that was perpendicular to the road, basically blocking everybody off. And again, I don't know if it's on purpose because for some reason something had happened ahead of the road, so they need to block off the road somehow, and a truck was the best way to do it. Or somehow a dude ended up being perfectly perpendicular on a highway, and everyone was just like, well, I mean, I guess we're just stuck here now, so we're just gonna hang out on a highway, basically, and stuff like that. And yeah, it was quite interesting because I thought back to like if it was Chicago and like something happened like that, within like 15 minutes a tow truck would be there and be like, nah, we gotta get this moving, or if not, people like would get out of their car and like push this truck away so they could get to work and stuff like that. But it was the wildest thing I'd ever seen. I'm like, for 1.5 inches of snow, we ended up in a situation where basically nobody could move for a few hours.
That's actually pretty funny. That kind of reminds me. So, like 4 or 5 months back, I was living in Arizona for a little bit for some schooling, and being from Texas and closer to the coastal area, I'm used to rain. I'm used to driving in rain and stuff like that. I'm used to the way people drive in rain. But in Arizona, they don't get a lot of rain. Um, and so one day when I was driving, I think I went to go get my ears pierced, and it started to rain slightly, a small little, what I would consider a drizzle. And the way people started driving was absolutely ridiculous. It was crazy. They were starting to swerve and just drive like maniacs because they're not used to the rain. I guess it just scares them or something like that.
That's crazy. Being
It really
scared
is.
of rain.
I mean, you
You,
kind of both stories remind me just, the Midwest and all that. They get, there's so much different kinds of weather, but there's so many people that still don't know how to drive in it either way. You'll still
yeah,
get like that little bit extra rain and everybody's going so much slower and causing, backups and that sort of thing.
I feel like in the Midwest though, we have a weird thing of like where we basically have it figured out, but then there's still some like very odd people and stuff like that. Because like when it rains, like we know, okay, we'll go a little bit slower, but we'll still keep up the pace and stuff like that. And if it's icy all over the place, then we'll definitely take it slow. Except for the one weirdo that decides to think that we're in need for speed for some reason. But speaking of hometowns, it's a great segue into question number 2. What is a staple of your hometown that everybody should try at least once in their life? Start with Mami, then we'll go to Mikhail, and we'll end with me.
man. So I would like to say that my hometown was in deep South Texas of Harlingen, where I was born, but it's not, because technically I grew up, like I said, in Farmington, New Mexico. If I had to say a staple of it, it would definitely be New Mexico green chili. Uh, it goes with everything. You can put it in tacos. You can make green chili smothered burritos. You can even make green chili enchiladas. It's magnificent. It gives you that little bit of kick, but it's a little bit sweet. I don't know how to describe it. It's really just something like, and you can get. I'm not saying you can't get green chili anywhere else. I'm just saying that it's definitely better from New Mexico. Uh, it's just not the same anywhere else.
Are they locally grown there? Those green chilies?
So yeah, so green chilies are grown like all over New Mexico. I guess it's just like the perfect climate for it. I mean, it's not necessarily just green chilies, it's just chilies in general. But I remember growing up, all my teachers would always talk about how they go out and buy them and pack them up and ship them to family around the US.
That's pretty interesting, yeah.
Interesting.
As a matter of fact, we actually had received some from some family, and we just barely finished it, and now we're trying to figure out a way to get more.
Time to start the Silk Road of green chilies out in America.
Exactly.
Get the trade going. Nice, that's pretty good. You got any locations that, like, places that if people were to drive by, you could recommend, or just gotta have the homemade stuff?
Um, so pretty much anywhere in New Mexico, I mean, even McDonald's, I think they sell like a green chili burger. Um, but if you're in New Mexico anywhere, there's a restaurant that I don't know how sparse it is, but it is called Lotta Burger,
Ooh.
Lotta. Um, and they have like chicken sandwiches. Their breakfast burritos are great, and I guarantee you that they have green chili as an option on the menu to add or just on menu items already.
Where again was that?
New Mexico.
Okay. I feel like I might have heard of that before. I know a few people like in the Texas area that are big into, just different food places and that kind of thing.
So there's Blake's Lotta Burger. That's in New Mexico. But in Texas, there's What a Burger.
Okay, maybe it's that
Completely
one.
different.
Yeah,
But
Whataburger.
What a Burger is definitely a Texas staple. I feel like, I mean, it's really hyped up because for what it is, it's really good. But other people would probably either A, have it somewhere else in the States, or B, come to Texas and expect something godly, and then they're disappointed by it. And I think this is best said by one of my roommates in Arizona. Um, as far as the In-N-Out versus Whataburger debate goes, In-N-Out is good for what it is, but Whataburger is better for variety.
Interesting. I've only ever had In-N-Out. I've not had Whataburger yet, so I can't speak to which one I prefer.
I had In-N-Out while I was in Arizona, and it was good for what it was, a basic burger. But like the burgers were also, in my opinion, kind of small.
I have yet to experience, well, either of those or a lot of things. I feel like I haven't traveled as much in the last, 15 or so years to really like get out there and try, all these different places that I just didn't want to when I was a teenager and younger.
Road trip time. If you
One
could.
end of the U.S. to the other.
Yeah. So as for me, well, actual hometown, I don't think there's anything it's known for, because I'm pretty sure it's still considered a village. Like that's how tiny it was. Um, but as for like the overall area of Toledo, Northwest Ohio, um, I don't know if it's something I'd recommend. I guess it just depends, if you're into that. I know we're known for, I want to say it's Tony Paco's, so like chili dogs, that kind of thing. And the same sort of thing, there's also like Rudy's hot dogs. Maybe just, chili hot dogs happen to be popular that much, here at some point in the past. But I can't really say there's anything specific like, that sort of homegrown or anything like that here otherwise. We're known for, I think, more so other things than food.
Yeah, Ohio, huh? I think if someone's driving by, they could, if they wanted to pretend they're Sonic for a little bit, they can get into the chili dogs or something.
Yeah, they could.
I bet that joke gets thrown around a lot, doesn't it?
No, not as
Quite
much,
sure.
really. Yeah.
Really?
I don't think at least not a lot of people I interact with, make Sonic references. In fact, I remember Joey once talking about Sonic games, and I mentioned that I had never played a Sonic game, and he told me, "Good, don't ever."
Well,
That sounds like a Joey comment.
yep, that's yep. I don't know if I would say never don't play any of them. There's definitely a few of them. Good. Just don't fall down the fandom. That's where things get you.
Well, I mean, speaking of that too, as far as chili dogs, that's almost that older sort of, fandom.
It is.
That was the comic, the cartoons that I don't know how old they are at this point now.
I wouldn't really consider Sonic Boom that old, but I also can't remember when it came out.
The original Sonic Boom, Wii U era, so late 2010s, mid 2010s, late 2010s.
All right, so not long, but a little ways.
A little way there, but I think the chili dog thing is even older than that. It's like from like the old comics.
Like the Archie comics type stuff.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, there was a bit in that. I remember collecting them for a little while.
And they might have made a show, not a show. They might have made a reference to it in like Sonic Underground or something. I recall seeing it. If not that, then Sonic X, I know for sure had chili dogs in them. Pretty sure. Yeah, Sonic X I know for a fact did. I didn't watch too much of Underground and stuff like that.
Underground was kind of. I always tried to watch Underground, but the thing about Underground is that while I was growing up, we didn't have cable. We had local networks, and it showed on one specific network at a very specific time from like 5 to 6 a.m. So if I didn't wake up before that to like try and catch it, I never would. And I never did.
Welcome to my entire youth, really. I mean, that was, anything like if we were lucky to kind of get it on television, it was like, well, it's this one specific time, you better, be home, have the TV on if you want to watch it.
Or ask someone nicely to please record it via VCR or tape it so you could catch it later. Yeah, that was the thing.
Well, that, speaking of that, I forget where it was, but I was thinking about like older anime the other day. And I think I still have all these like VCR, the VHS tapes from like, it would have been like the old Sci-Fi Channel when they had like random things on the weekend.
Oh, yeah. It reminds me when like DirecTV, like they were around I think for a while, but like I remember when I was a kid, like I first started seeing their commercials, and then like everyone kind of like having a big debate between Comcast versus DirecTV, like who was better and stuff like that. And like most people's houses you went to, they had the quintessential Comcast remote. that if you've seen, you're probably picturing now with like the red buttons and like the very classic Comcast controller that came with every service and stuff like that.
I don't think we ever had Comcast. I think we've had DirecTV and AT&T. We've had AT&T. I don't think they had cable. I think their cable was bundled with DirecTV
Yeah,
or something like that.
yeah, I think so too.
And I think we've had Xfinity. But as far as like before any of that, it was my dad went out and bought a giant antenna, put it on the roof of the house, and hopes we would pick up a ton of channels.
Yep, the classic antenna.
Yep.
Yep, those were the days. So my hometown is the suburbs of Illinois. So we have three things that Chicago is known for, two of which I'll talk about, because one's shorter to talk about than the other. Is popcorn, actually. One of them is for Chicago, and specifically Chicago-style popcorn. And for those who don't know what Chicago-style popcorn is, it is a combination of cheddar corn and caramel corn mixed together in a single bag, and that is deemed Chicago-style corn. And like you can get that style in like stores and stuff like that, but if you're ever in the Illinois area and you can go to a place called Garrett's, that is like everybody knows Garrett's. That's the place to get popcorn, and like that's the place to get Chicago style. It's like I think it's because of the way they do in-house their like cheddar mix and stuff like that, and their in-house caramel that makes it stand out from naturally store-bought processed versions of it. But yeah, definitely popcorn, which is usually the one that surprises people about when it comes to Chicago, stuff like that. And the second thing, most people know this one, is pizza. I'm not here to talk about deep dish. I'm here to talk about tavern style. So if you leave the city and you leave the tourists and stuff, the touristy areas and stuff like that, you can get what's known as Chicago style tavern pizza, which is different than New York style thin crust. It is thin like a cracker, but still and some places will still have a little bit of fluff to it. But square cut pizzas, nice and thin, but also super good and stuff like that. You get some nice jardinere, as Joey would call it, which is the mix of like peppers and spices and stuff like that to give you a nice cool mix and stuff like that. If you're ever in the Illinois area, the place to go is usually Giordano's or Lou Malnati's. You can, there's a war between the two, social war of which one's better, so have both for deep dish. But also go down to a local tavern and get their pizza, because that stuff is so good. It's the one thing I genuinely miss now that I moved to the East Coast, is just because I love me some local Italian joints for their pizza and the New York style and stuff like that, but man, it's not the same.
I have been somewhere in Chicago, like not, downtown, that sort of thing, somewhere a little, west in the whichever area. But I think it was just a one location place. I can't remember what the name was at this point, though. But I did remember liking the pizza.
Heck yeah.
Well, I guess if the Cerulean Skies Chicago meetup ever goes down, I'm gonna have to check out some pizza.
Oh, we are
And
100% having a pizza party. We're gonna go old style with it. Classic room with like the weird space style carpet, the party hats, the classic plastic plates that are just too small for the slice of pizza, or just too big for the weird small things that they give you and stuff like that. The balloons.
Pizza
Oh,
in 130 seconds.
yep. They'll do the whole shebang. You don't have to worry about it one bit. We're going 90s party on this style. And whoever is around that was born after the 90s can take a weird trip into the land that they never have known.
I think it really
I
depends
vaguely
on the
remember
year
some of that.
I think it really depends on the year that you were born, because I was born early 2000s, but I kind of grew up in that era of transitioning from like the 90s to like the where we are now. So I mean, I grew up with like flip phones and VCRs and stuff like that, but I also grew up with smartphones and Wi-Fi that wasn't
Yep.
dial-up and smart TVs are fucking crazy.
Oh man, the
I
first
remember
smart TVs. Oh god, you have to use
I
your
remember those
hand and everything. Ugh.
I remember those fat tube TVs. You could hear
CRTs.
you could hear the screen when you were watching something, not just the audio from what you were watching. So I think it was definitely a weird era to grow up in.
Me and my IRL friends talk about all the time where the 90s didn't actually end with the year 2000. It honestly ended around 2006 to 2008, give or take a year or so.
Where
And then
everybody had the
technology
money to
happened.
actually get DVDs,
Yep.
DVD players. I think that was what was so weird about it is that not everybody had the money to get the newer technology. So VCRs were still around in like 2008, somewhere around there. I mean, you probably couldn't rent them anymore. You probably just owned them. But like Blockbuster was still around until like 2009, 2010,
Mm-hmm.
somewhere around there before they finally just went bankrupt and died. But I think somewhere around like 2006, like 2008 is where everybody started actually transitioning to like DVD players. And even then, somewhere around 2010, there were those odd few that had the money to get Blu-ray players when those started coming out.
Yep.
So something interesting I found out recently is that there is still one Blockbuster that exists.
Is there really?
It's I think it's in Oregon.
Of
Um,
course.
there's some sort of like tournament thing that they do, or that they're doing again, and I know there's like a whole Twitch channel and that sort of thing for it that's coming up soon.
Dang, that's crazy to think that there's one still remaining.
Take a trip to the last remaining blockbuster ever. Literal piece of history,
Honestly, they should just make that into a museum.
really.
CS Blockbuster meetup. Let's do it. Let's all go to Oregon.
Oh yeah.
Blu-ray like came and went, low key. Like it existed, and then it just like it's still there, but it's not like talked about that much anymore. It just came, happened, and that was it.
I think what happened there is that everything just became formatted to Blu-ray, pretty much, and so now there's really no need to, like, most people own a Blu-ray slash DVD player. It plays one or the other. It doesn't matter what you get. Most consoles will do the same thing. I know PlayStation was the first one to do it, but they pretty much you were able to watch Blu-ray movies on your console.
Yep.
But now even Xbox, you can do the same thing. And I mean, I guess it's just it's like you said, it's there, but nobody talks about it. But it's also just overshadowed by the huge rise of online media and streaming platforms.
For sure, all the people that binge watch, the shows online, they don't have to buy, discs anymore. They don't have to deal with any of that. They're just not going to talk about it.
Speaking of which, there is a movie that I really wanted to watch. I think it's that Kevin Hart movie where he plays the helper to the crippled dude. And I was like, oh man, I wonder if I could watch this somewhere. And so I look it up, and every platform it's on, you either need like some sort of premium membership or you need to rent or buy it. I was like, man, screw this. And so when I was like at Walmart, I was like, I wonder if I can find it on disc. And it's no, you can't. You just can't. I would have just bought it on disc and watched it that way. But maybe if I ordered it online, but
At that point, you might as well just pay the premium or just the rent and just go from
or
there.
just
Yeah.
rent it. You will never catch me buying a digital movie. Rent it, maybe. Buying it, definitely not.
Yeah, I've done online rentals. That I can work with. Buying, eh.
OG online rental was Netflix, by the way. It's also crazy when Netflix first popped up. I remember when there was some stuff you could watch on it, and there was other things that you just rented from it, and then they'd show up in your mailbox a couple days later, and you'd be able to watch them and then return them.
I always thought Redbox and Netflix were like the same thing for a while.
Yeah, it started off kind of the same.
Yeah. Redbox was cool. Definitely watched a lot of movies through that.
Oh yeah, Redbox was great. Like, you could rent a movie for like $1 a day. Most of the times you rent it, go home, watch it, maybe watch it like 1 or 2 more times, and then return it.
Mm-hmm.
It was still cheaper than the alternative of going to Blockbuster and renting 2 movies for $30 for a week.
You know, when you put it that way compared to Redbox, well, Blockbuster really got us, didn't they?
Yeah. Man, I remember going to like a movie rental store was such a treat. It didn't happen often, at least for us, it didn't happen often. Maybe if my parents had a couple extra bucks or something like that, we'd go and we'd each we we would have to come to a consensus, me and my siblings, on what movie we wanted to rent. And so we'd get to pick out 1 or 2, and that was it. And then we'd have those movies until my parents had to return them. And so normally you'd watch the movie, and then maybe you'd watch it the day after that and the day after that, and that was about it.
Yeah.
I can say I was almost a little disappointed around the time, Netflix and all that started. We had, decent rental places at the time. It was pretty cheap to rent movies, and then suddenly, that's over and done with.
I think what was, and I say that Blockbuster was bad because they were expensive, but it was also cool because especially if you didn't have access to a lot of games growing up, if you were lucky and your parents caved to your begging, they might have rented you a video game.
Mm-hmm. And you had
So
to
I
beat
know
that within 2 weeks.
yeah, yeah. Like I know, that's how I was able to play Paper Mario on the Wii. My parents caved and they rented the game for me, and so I was able to play a little bit of it. At the time, I didn't have an understanding of beating games, 'cause I was kind of illiterate when it came to playing games. I just played games for fun, and I didn't know they had an end. I just kind of did them. I also just sucked, so if there was an end to a game, I never found it.
Do you still hold that mentality of playing for fun? I mean, like, naturally, there's an end now, but do you still kind of hold some of those mentalities even to this day?
Definitely do. I mean, especially now, that, like I buy my own games and stuff like that, and there's no need to rent or beg for them. I kind of just take my time with it. Like, I know recently I bought Blasphemous. I played like 2-3 hours of that game. I haven't touched it in like a week or two. Um, but I know when I get Fatal Frame, I plan on playing that game.
For sure, for sure.
I know I did. It took me a bit to get into that, but I did enjoy playing that game. Maybe I don't know if I'd say like kind of the learning curve or whatever to it, that once you get past that, it becomes a lot more enjoyable.
I have not played it, so I can't unfortunately talk about that. But maybe I will look it up. Maybe I will play it. Or at least wait for you guys' recommendations on that one. If when Mommy beats it or something. Or if you have a recommendation for it.
Yeah, I mean, I would recommend it. It's a decent. It's a little more actiony, but it is, I think, overall a Souls, or not a Souls, like Metroidvania. I want to say people call it a Souls-like, but it might just be more the art style and that kind of thing.
Man, that definition is so vague. What is a Souls
Right.
like? What is a Metroidvania these days anymore? They're all one and the same, aren't they?
Well, it is that side-scrolling platformer, that kind of thing.
You got one hard boss and bam, Souls. Okay, let's see here. Since we're in the last half hour here, or last 15 minutes to half hour, I need to pull up my goodie bag of fun questions. Or if chat has a question they would like to ask, they are more than welcome to. We will acknowledge it. Romance movie recommendations? Ooh.
Oh man, when was the last time I watched a romance movie?
I think I have one. Let me see if I remember the name.
You can never go wrong with Crazy Rich
Preferably
Asians.
when they're
That's a
not
really
happy.
good
Oh my gosh.
one.
I think it's pronounced Keinerhassen. It's a German movie.
Ooh.
I think the translation was something like Rabbit Without Ears.
Preferably ones that are not happy. You see, now you've made an
Oh, well.
oxymoron.
Yeah.
Can't do that. Wedding Season on Netflix is really good. That's a good one. That was a fun one.
I think I watch a lot of romance movies, unless it's like early 2000s rom-coms.
Oh, that's digging
Those
deep.
are always
Those are
Right.
digging deep, but
Those-
good ones.
those are always good to watch. Wedding Singer with Adam Sandler is a classic. You can't beat it. Yeah, as far as like recent romance movies, I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I don't know that many recent ones.
I don't think I've watched one in a good 10 years at least.
I know as far as movies go in general, I recently watched Nightcrawler, and man, that was just fucked.
What's that one about?
As I got some comments, Joey, now I got some fun picked at me for making that comment. So Nightcrawler, it has what's his name? I can't remember. He plays in Donnie Darko.
I know who you're talking about, but I can't remember either, yeah.
It'll come to me. But basically, I think the character he plays is like a sociopath or some shit. But basically, he's trying to find ways to make money, and he ends up becoming what is known as a night crawler, or somebody that goes around at night to film videos of accidents that happen on the road, or any crimes that have been committed, as far as like murders and stuff like that go, to sell the footage to news companies, basically, so that they can have footage of said crime to report, and it kind of just gets deeper and deeper and darker to like of his character basically manipulating everything around him in order to get the footage he wants to make the money that he desires basically.
That sounds super
it's definitely
interesting.
it's definitely a good movie. I'd consider it a thriller, just in the sense of everything that goes on, but it's definitely a good watch. Um, Another good movie that I watched recently on Hulu that I also talked about in chat is called On the Count of Three, and it's really good, but I also wouldn't recommend it if you're really sensitive to the topic of like self-harm and committing unalive, because that's a big part of said movie. But it's on Hulu, and a couple of other things if you decide to check it out.
Nice. Oh, she also wants thriller recommendations. I don't have any thriller recently either. I don't know if you have any, Mikhail.
I am not sure about thrillers either.
Black Phone. The Black Phone. I guess it's technically supposed to be a horror movie, but I'd just consider it a thriller. But it's definitely pretty good. It's basically it's a classic kidnapping story, but I think it takes place in like the late 80s, early 90s, somewhere around there.
I love all the titles of these.
You know what? You know what? No, no, yeah, late 80s, early 90s would be good because it still has what are they called? The ring phones? I wouldn't call them ring phones. Basically, the one that had the little dials you put your finger in, and then you move it,
Yeah.
and then you let go.
Oh
it
yeah,
goes back.
rotary.
Rotary phones, yes. Yeah, it has rotary phones in it. So it's definitely takes place in an older era, lost to time for some of these people.
Rotary phones. Woo!
Yeah. It might honestly be like late 70s, early 80s, if I'm being honest. But yeah, they're all really good titles, and they're all really good movies that I would definitely recommend if you can find a way to watch them.
I know one of my kind of favorite movies. I want to say it's a thriller. It's called The Machinist.
Ooh,
It has
yeah.
Christian Bale. Yeah.
Yes. That actually is a really good movie, and I also would consider that a thriller.
I think around that year, 2004.
Man, what's another? Club? Would that be considered a thriller?
What movie?
Definitely a little wonky. Fight Club.
I would. Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely thrilling. Alright, I'm gonna...
To a degree. We got 6 movies for sure. He's going to enjoy this weekend and not sleep and just watch all of them all in a row.
Let's see. I'm trying to see if I can... The Machinist is in fact considered a thriller drama. Oh, let's see. I'm trying to see if I can find anything else that I know is good, in my opinion. Ooh, Uncut Gems. That actually was a pretty good movie. It does have Adam Sandler in it. I don't know. I know some people have a certain type of feeling about watching Adam Sandler movies, but Uncut Gems is definitely probably one of his better performances in a movie.
I literally heard the same line today from somebody else that there's just random feelings with Adam Sandler. I don't know, like I like the guy, but I feel like there's a part of a culture to basically be like, yeah, screw Adam Sandler, his movies suck, even though they might not actually.
Right, I don't know, it's almost confusing because he's just another guy that he's got that certain personality, that shtick or whatever you want to say to his movies. They just happen to all be like basically comedy movies for the most part.
Yeah, I don't think he's intentionally trying to make bad movies, but it's not like he's intentionally trying to make like Emmy-winning blockbusters or anything like that. Like he's just a dude who makes movies with Adam Sandler-ish like ideas. It's so weird.
I think most people have a big problem with him because he gets to like make money and play parts in these movies where he's basically just himself. He doesn't have to change himself for said movie because it's basically just him. And I think a lot of people wish that they could just make money off of being themselves the way he does.
Couldn't you make that same case for someone like Danny DeVito in Always Sunny in Philadelphia because it's just Danny DeVito being Danny DeVito?
Maybe so, but
No, nothing against Danny DeVito, right? But it's just like you could almost make that same case.
you, you bring up a good point though, because most people love Danny DeVito for being Danny DeVito, but
Yeah,
some people hate Adam Sandler for being Adam Sandler. I don't think I've ever heard any Danny DeVito hate, but you could pretty much find Adam Sandler hate anywhere.
yep. It's freaking hilarious.
I can't think of anyone else they really did that to, so maybe it was just a one-time thing almost. Like, hey, everybody hates Adam Sandler, and then, the people that still don't like him are the people that just didn't like him, before.
Yeah.
Yep. It be that way. Alrighty. I think we'll actually wrap it up for tonight. In that case, then. Bada boom. Alrighty. Oh, this is the interesting thing. That's a different picture than I thought it would be. Oh well. With that, that brings us to the end of another coffee talk. And we will go raid Vincent Ninja, who's playing Undertale. So we're gonna toss each other to another fellow Cerulean Skies person. Mikhail and Mami, if you have any social media, feel free to drop it down below. While I give the elevator speech for Cerulean Skies. So thank you all once again for watching another episode of Coffee Talk. I've been your host, Golden Drummer 730, joined by Mikhail and Mamimi. If you're new here to Cerulean Skies, we are a hub and collective for all things game media and content creation. So we definitely aim to keep things very on a variety schedule here. But also, if you're interested in making content, either streaming, writing articles, and or making videos, Cerulean Skies is the place to get started with it, where we give you all the tools and resources to get going on that. So if you're interested, drop us a follow the website, follow the socials and stuff like that. We have things happening pretty much at some point throughout the entire week. I'll be back here again tomorrow night with East. Yahiko will be back Monday night with Mega Man Mondays, and we have Vincent Ninja who Frowny does stuff on Tuesdays. So schedules are starting to pick up again with Cerulean Sky. So we always have something going on. Mikhail posted his socials as well. If you want to talk about that real quick.
No, just my Twitter. I started getting back into pixel art more recently. Something something I've done off and on since mid 90s, maybe somewhere around there. But yeah, just that once in a while I've been trying to get back into those the different daily kind of exercises they have. So
Yeah, like Inktober and all.
yeah.
Mommy Me
Yeah.
also posted their Twitch if you want to talk about that real quick.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really stream that much. If I do, it's probably like really random. I know I did a really random Dark Souls stream like a month ago. I might try to start streaming some Dante's Inferno, or like I said, I might stream Fatal Frame here on the Cerulean Skies account. So I guess we'll see what happens.
Heck yeah. And of course, if you want more of me, my links are there. I have a Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube. Go check it out. I do a lot of different things with RPGs and or bullet hells, especially on Thursdays. That's kind of a new thing I've been doing recently is bullet hell Thursdays, and then doing stuff on the weekends for JRPGs and stuff like that. Finishing up Crosscode and then figuring out what to do after that. So with that, let's all go say hi to Vincent Ninja, and we'll see you all next time for the next episode of Coffee Talk. Bye, everybody.